My alma mater was books, a good library. I could spend the rest of my life reading, just satisfying my curiosity. If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed, and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, and that's power. Because they control the minds of the masses. I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, no matter who it's for or against. There is no better than adversity. Every defeat, every heartbreak, every loss, contains its own seed, its own lesson on how to improve your performance the next time. I believe in the brotherhood of man, all men, but I don't believe in brotherhood with anybody who doesn't want brotherhood with me. I believe in treating people right, but I'm not going to waste my time trying to treat somebody right who doesn't know how to return the treatment. We are not anti-white. But we don't have time for the white man. The white man is on top already, the white man is the boss already, he has first-class citizenship already. So you are wasting your time talking to the white man. We are working on our own people. Nobody can give you freedom. Nobody can give you equality or justice or anything. If you're a man, you take it. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Usually when people are sad, they don't do anything. They just cry over their condition. But when they get angry, they bring about a change. Be peaceful, be courteous, obey the law, respect everyone, but if someone puts his hand on you, send him to the cemetery. I believe in human beings, and that all human beings should be respected as such, regardless of their color. We won't organize any black man to be a Democrat or a Republican because both of them have sold us out. Both of them have sold us out, both parties have sold us out. Both parties are racist, and the Democratic Party is more racist than the Republican Party. For me, my ex replaced the white slave master name of Little, which some blue-eyed devil named Little had imposed on my parental forebears. What is a Dixiecrat? A Democrat. A Dixiecrat is nothing but a Democrat in disguise. The black man in Africa had mastered the arts and sciences. He knew the course of the stars in the universe before the man up in Europe knew that the earth wasn't flat. I am for violence if non-violence means we continue postponing a solution to the American black man's problem just to avoid violence. You're not supposed to be so blind with patriotism that you can't face reality. Wrong is wrong, no matter who says it. If you have no critics, you'll likely have no success. You can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he has his freedom. If a white man puts his arm around me voluntarily, that's brotherhood. But if you hold a gun on him and make him embrace me and pretend to be friendly or brotherly toward me, then that's not brotherhood, that's hypocrisy. If you're not ready to die for it, put the word freedom out of your vocabulary. You can't hate the roots of a tree and not hate the tree. You can't hate Africa and not hate yourself. I have been blessed to visit the holy city of Mecca. It's got to be the ballot or the bullet. The ballot or the bullet. If you're afraid to use an expression like that, you should get back in the cotton patch, you should get back in the alley. The American Negro has no conception of the hundreds of millions of other non-whites concerned for him, he has no conception of their feeling of brotherhood for and with him. Without education, you are not going anywhere in this world. If it's lawful to have a rifle club to kill pheasants, it should be just as lawful to have one to kill wolves or dogs that are being sicked on little black babies. In fact, it's constitutional. Article number 2 of the Constitution guarantees the right of every citizen to own a rifle or a shotgun. Power in defense of freedom is greater than power in behalf of tyranny and oppression, because power, real power, comes from our conviction which produces action, uncompromising action. You don't have to be a man to fight for freedom. All you have to do is to be an intelligent human being. Envy blinds men and makes it impossible for them to think clearly. Segregation is that which is forced upon an inferior by a superior. Separation is done voluntarily by two equals. It's hard for anyone intelligent to be nonviolent. Everything in the universe does something when you start playing with his life, except the American Negro. He lays down and says, "Beat me, Daddy." The future belongs to those who prepare for it today. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that we should be separate, all right, but in this separate state or separate existence, the black man should be given the opportunity and the incentive to do for himself what the white man has done for himself. In all our deeds, the proper value and respect for time determine success or failure. The American Negro never can be blamed for his racial animosities, he is only reacting to 400 years of the conscious racism of the American whites. Being an old farm boy myself, chickens coming home to roost never did make me sad, they've always made me glad. What I want to know is how the white man, with the blood of black people dripping off his fingers, can have the audacity to be asking black people, why they hate him. Truth is on the side of the oppressed. You have to realize that up until about 1959, Africa was dominated by the colonial powers. And by the colonial powers of Europe having complete control over Africa, they projected Africa always in a negative light: jungles, savages, cannibals, nothing civilized. When we say Afro-American, we include everyone in the Western Hemisphere of African descent. South America is America. Central America is America. South America has many people in it of African descent. You can't legislate goodwill, that comes through education. Sitting at the table doesn't make you a diner. You must be eating some of what's on that plate. Being here in America doesn't make you an American. Being born here in America doesn't make you an American. When we see that our problem is so complicated and so all-encompassing in its intent and content, then we realize that it is no longer a Negro problem, confined only to the American Negro, that it is no longer an American problem, confined only to America, but it is a problem for humanity. History proves that the white man is a devil. My father didn't know his real name. My father got his name from his grandfather, and he got his name from his grandfather, and he got it from the slave master. Power never takes a back step, only in the face of more power. When ghetto living seems normal, you have no shame, no privacy. I did a lot of things as a Muslim that I am sorry for now. I want to take Negroes out of the ghetto and put them in good neighborhoods, in good houses. There is no more apartheid in South Africa than in the United States. Power doesn't back up in the face of a smile, or in the face of a threat of some kind of nonviolent loving action. It's not the nature of power to back up in the face of anything but some more power. Good education, housing and jobs are imperatives for the Negroes, and I shall support them in their fight to win these objectives. But I shall tell the Negroes that while these are necessary, they cannot solve the main Negro problem. Despite my firm convictions, I have always been a man who tries to face facts, and to accept the reality of life as new experience and new knowledge unfolds. I have always kept an open mind, a flexibility that must go hand in hand with every form of the intelligent search for truth. Do you know what integration really means? It means intermarriage. That's the real point behind it. You can't have it without intermarriage. And that would result in disintegration of both races. A man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. I just don't believe that when people are being unjustly oppressed that they should let someone else set rules for them by which they can come out from under that oppression. To have once been a criminal is no disgrace. To remain a criminal is the disgrace. I believe in a religion that believes in freedom. Any time I have to accept a religion that won't let me fight a battle for my people, I say to hell with that religion. I believe in the brotherhood of all men, but I don't believe in wasting brotherhood on anyone who doesn't want to practice it with me. Brotherhood is a two-way street. History is a people's memory, and without a memory, man is demoted to the lower animals. I don't even call it violence when it's in self-defense, I call it intelligence. My black brothers and sisters, of all religious beliefs, or of no religious beliefs, we all have in common the greatest binding tie we could have. We are all black people. I have more respect for a man who lets me know where he stands, even if he's wrong, than the one who comes up like an angel and is nothing but a devil. America needs to understand Islam, because this is the one religion that erases from its society the race problem. You don't have a peaceful revolution. You don't have a turn-the-cheek revolution. There's no such thing as a non-violent revolution. In the past, the greatest weapon the white man has had has been his ability to divide and conquer. If I take my hand and slap you, you don't even feel it. It might sting you because these digits are separated. But all I have to do to put you back in your place is bring those digits together. You show me a capitalist, and I'll show you a bloodsucker. Nobody should teach the black man in America to turn the other cheek, unless someone is teaching the white man in America to turn the other cheek. The true Islam has shown me that a blanket indictment of all white people is as wrong as when whites make blanket indictments against blacks. The white man made the mistake of letting me read his history books. He made the mistake of teaching me that Patrick Henry was a patriot and George Washington wasn't nothing nonviolent about old Pat or George Washington. If you have a dog, I must have a dog. If you have a rifle, I must have a rifle. If you have a club, I must have a club. This is equality. No, we are not anti-white. But we don't have time for the white man. The white man is on top already, the white man is the boss already. He has first-class citizenship already. So you are wasting your time talking to the white man. We are working on our own people. There is nothing in our book, the Quran, that teaches us to suffer peacefully. Our religion teaches us to be intelligent. America is the first country that can actually have a bloodless revolution. Non-violence is fine as long as it works. The white man pays Reverend Martin Luther King so that Martin Luther King can keep the Negro defenseless. Not one black man is prominent in Brazil. The Negroes there are still at the bottom. The goal of Dr. Martin Luther King is to give Negroes a chance to sit in a segregated restaurant beside the same white man who had brutalized them for 400 years. In the Muslim world, I had seen that men with white complexions were more genuinely brotherly than anyone else had ever been. That was the start of a radical alteration in my whole outlook about white men. Integration will not bring a man back from the grave. We who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad feel that when you try and pass integration laws here in America, forcing white people to pretend that they are accepting black people, what you are doing is making white people act in a hypocritical way. In the Bible, God offered the Pharaoh freedom if he would just let the oppressed people free to go to the land of milk and honey. But the Pharaoh disobeyed, and he was destroyed. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that God, now, is about to establish a kingdom on this earth, based upon brotherhood and peace. And the white man is against brotherhood, and the white man is against peace. The Negro Revolution is controlled by foxy white liberals, by the government itself. But the Black Revolution is controlled only by God. My father didn't know his last name. My father got his last name from his grandfather, and his grandfather got it from his grandfather who got it from the slave master. We Muslims believe that the white race, which is guilty of having oppressed and exploited and enslaved our people here in America, should and will be the victims of God's divine wrath. America in its entirety is segregationist and is racist. It's more camouflaged in the North, but it's the same thing. All I held against Jews was that so many Jews actually were hypocrites in their claim to be friends of the American black man. The white man, in his press, is going to identify me with hate. If you turn the other cheek, you can be enslaved for 1,000 years. Whenever I walk the street and see people ready to get with it, that's my reward. At a young age, I had learned enough about women to know not to pressure them when they're thinking something out. They'll tell you when they're ready. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock landed on us. I used the word Negro and I was firmly corrected. One of my brothers read a lot. His head was forever in some book. I believe in recognizing every human being as a human being, neither white, black, brown, or red. I have rarely talked to anyone about my mother, for I believe that I am capable of killing a person, without hesitation, who happened to make the wrong kind of remark about my mother. So I purposely don't make any opening for some fool to step into. As bad as I was, as much trouble and worry as I caused my mother, I loved her. If Christianity had asserted itself in Germany, 6 million Jews would have lived. By any means necessary. Sitting at the table doesn't make you a diner, unless you eat some of what's on that plate. There seems in most countries to be either one extreme or the other. Truly a paradise could exist wherever material progress and spiritual values could be properly balanced. The ability to read awoke inside of me some long dormant craving to be mentally alive. We must establish all over the country schools of our own to train our own children to become scientists, to become mathematicians. We must realize the need for adult education and for job retraining programs that will emphasize a changing society in which automation plays the key role. We intend to use the tools of education to help raise our people to an unprecedented level of excellence and self-respect through their own efforts. He, liberal white person, may stand with you through thin, but not thick, when the chips are down. You'll find that as fixed in him as his bone structure is his sometimes subconscious conviction that he's better than anybody black. Let's cool it, brothers. To tell a woman not to talk too much was like telling Jesse James not to carry a gun, or a hen not to cackle. As I say, if we bring up religion we'll have differences, we'll have arguments, and we'll never be able to get together. A revolution is bloody, but America is in a unique position. She's the only country in history in a position actually to become involved in a bloodless revolution. The Russian Revolution was bloody, Chinese Revolution was bloody, French Revolution was bloody, Cuban Revolution was bloody, and there was nothing more bloody than the American Revolution. But today this country can become involved in a revolution that won't take bloodshed. All she's got to do is give the black man in this country everything that's due him, everything. At the bottom of the social heap is the black man in the big city ghetto. He lives night and day with the rats and the cockroaches and drowns himself with alcohol and anesthetizes himself with dope, to try and forget where and what he is. That Negro has given up all hope. He's the hardest one for us to reach, because he's the deepest in the mud. But when you get him, you've got the best kind of Muslim. I look upon myself as a prime example of this category, as graphic an example as you could find of the salvation of the black man. Only the mistakes were mine. The young people are the ones who most quickly identify with the struggle and the necessity to eliminate the evil conditions that exist. Betty's a good Muslim woman and wife. I don't imagine many other women might put up with the way I am. Awakening this brainwashed black man and telling this arrogant, devilish white man the truth about himself, Betty understands, is a full-time job. I think the only way one can really determine whether extremism in the defense of liberty is justified, is not to approach it as an American or a European or an African or an Asian, but as a human being. If we look upon it as different types immediately we begin to think in terms of extremism being good for one and bad for another, or bad for one and good for another. But if we look upon it, if we look upon ourselves as human beings, I doubt that anyone will deny that extremism, in defense of liberty, the liberty of any human being. The problem facing our people here in America is bigger than all other personal or organizational differences. Therefore, as leaders, we must stop worrying about the threat that we seem to think we pose to each other's personal prestige, and concentrate our united efforts towards solving the unending hurt that is being done daily to our people here in America. Don't you run around here trying to make friends with somebody who's depriving you of your rights. They're not your friends, no, they're your enemies. Treat them like that. We cannot think of uniting with others, until after we have first united among ourselves. One can't unite bananas with scattered leaves. There were always more Negroes in the field than there was Negroes in the house. The Negro in the field caught hell. He ate leftovers. In the house they ate high up on the hog. The Negro in the field didn't get nothing but what was left of the insides of the hog. They call them chitlin nowadays. In those days they called them what they were, guts. That's what you were, a gut eater. And some of you all still gut eaters. Our accent will be upon youth. We need new ideas, new methods, new approaches. We will call upon young students of political science throughout the nation to help us. We will encourage these young students to launch their own independent study, and then give us their analysis and their suggestions. We are completely disenchanted with the old, adult, established politicians. We want to see some new faces, more militant faces. They came up with a civil rights bill in 1964, supposedly to solve our problem, and after the bill was signed, 3 civil rights workers were murdered in cold blood. And the FBI head, Hoover, admits that they know who did it. They've known ever since it happened, and they've done nothing about it. Civil rights bill down the drain. I was going through the hardest thing, also the greatest thing, for any human being to do, to accept that which is already within you, and around you. We assert that in those areas where the government is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives and property of our people, that our people are within our rights to protect themselves by whatever means necessary. Imagine that, a country that's supposed to be a democracy, supposed to be for freedom and all of that kind of stuff, when they want to draft you and put you in the army and send you to Saigon to fight for them, and then you've got to turn around and all night long discuss how you're going to just get a right to register and vote without being murdered. Why, that's the most hypocritical government since the world began. Soon now, as the Negro awakens a little more and sees the vice that he's in, sees the bag that he's in, sees the real game that he's in, then the Negro's going to develop a new tactic. They tell us we are all citizens, that we were born in this country. Well, a cat can have kittens in the oven, but that doesn't make them biscuits. I remember one thing that marred this time for me, the movie Gone with the Wind. When it played in Mason, MI, I was the only Negro in the theater, and when Butterfly McQueen went into her act, I felt like crawling under the rug. It's easy to become a satellite today without even being aware of it. This country can seduce God. Yes, it has that seductive power, the power of the dollar. Growing is the result of learning. Speaking like this doesn't mean that we're anti-white, but it does mean we're anti-exploitation, we're anti-degradation, we're anti-oppression. My beliefs are now 100% against racism and segregation in any form, and I also believe that we don't judge a person by the color of his skin but rather by his deeds. There can be no black-white unity until there is first some black unity. Any time Uncle Sam, with all his machinery for warfare, is held to a draw by some rice eaters, he's lost the battle. The Negro's so-called revolt is merely an asking to be accepted into the existing system. We have to keep in mind at all times that we are not fighting for integration, nor are we fighting for separation. We are fighting for recognition as free humans in this society. No sane black man really wants integration. No sane white man really wants integration. They call me a teacher, a fomenter of violence. I would say point blank, that is a lie. I'm not for wanton violence, I'm for justice. If it's necessary to form a black nationalist army, we'll form a black nationalist army. It'll be ballot or the bullet. It'll be liberty or it'll be death. Any time you see someone more successful than you are, they are doing something you aren't. Any time you demonstrate against segregation and a man has the audacity to put a police dog on you, kill that dog, kill him, I'm telling you, kill that dog. I say it if they put me in jail tomorrow, kill that dog. Then you'll put a stop to it. We want freedom by any means necessary. We want justice by any means necessary. We want equality by any means necessary. We don't feel that in 1964, living in a country that is supposedly based upon freedom, and supposedly the leader of the free world, we don't think that we should have to sit around and wait for some segregationist congressmen and senators and a president from Texas in Washington, D.C., to make up their minds that our people are due now some degree of civil rights. No, we want it now or we don't think anybody should have it. Revolution is always based on land. Revolution is never based on begging somebody for an integrated cup of coffee. In Harlem, for instance, all of the stores are owned by white people, all of the buildings are owned by white people. The black people are just there, paying rent, buying the groceries, but they don't own the stores, clothing stores, food stores, any kind of stores. Don't even own the homes that they live in. They are all owned by outsiders, and for these rundown apartment dwellings, the black man in Harlem pays more money than the man down in the rich Park Avenue section. Once I was, yes. But now I have turned my direction away from anything that's racist. My sincerity is my credentials. The young whites, and blacks, too, are the only hope that America has. The rest of us have always been living in a lie. Don't condemn if you see a person has a dirty glass of water, just show them the clean glass of water that you have. When they inspect it, you won't have to say that yours is better. Said by Elijah Muhammad to Malcolm X. Don't be bitter. Remember Lot's wife when they kill me, and they surely will. You have to use all of your energy to do what it is you have to do. To his wife Betty Shabazz. For one to control one's thoughts and feelings means one can actually control one's atmosphere and all who walk into its sphere of influence. Education is our passport to the future. I think there are plenty of good people in America, but there are also plenty of bad people in America, and the bad ones are the ones who seem to have all the power and be in these positions to block things that you and I need. I am not an American. I am one of 22 million black people who are victims of Americanism. Education is an important element in the struggle for human rights. It is the means to help our children and thereby increase self-respect. Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. If you are black, you were born in jail, in the North as well as the South. Stop talking about the South. As long as you are south of the Canadian border, you are South. When the thing is finally sparked, the white man is not there, he's gone. The merchant is not there, the landlord is not there, the one they consider to be the enemy isn't there. So, they knock at his property. This is what makes them knock down the store windows and set fire to things, and things of that sort. If the government can't get the black man justice, then it's time for the black man to get some justice for himself. The thing that has made the so-called Negro in America fail, more than any other thing, is my lack of knowledge concerning history. We know less about history than anything else. America is subsidizing what is left of the prestige and strength of the once mighty Britain. The sun has set forever on that monocled, pith-helmeted resident colonialist, sipping tea with his delicate lady in the non-white colonies being systematically robbed of every valuable resource. Britain's superfluous royalty and nobility now exist by charging tourists to inspect the once baronial castles, and by selling memoirs, perfumes, autographs, titles, and even themselves. Much of what I say might sound like it's stirring up trouble, but it's the truth. The economic philosophy of black nationalism only means that our people need to be re-educated into the importance of controlling the economy of the community in which we live, which means that we won't have to constantly be involved in picketing and boycotting other people in other communities in order to get jobs. The political philosophy of black nationalism means that the black man should control the politics and the politicians in his own community, no more. Anything I do today, I regard as urgent. What we need to do in the community, and in the city, and in the state. We need to stop airing our differences in front of the white man. Put the white man out of our meetings, number one, and then sit down and talk shop with each other. That's all you gotta do. Whenever any group can vote in a bloc, and decide the outcome of elections, and it fails to do this, then that group is politically sick. I'm not a Republican, nor a Democrat, nor an American, and got sense enough to know it. The white man is too intelligent to let someone else come and gain control of the economy of his community. But you will let anyone come in and take control of the economy of your community, control the housing, control the education, control the jobs, control the businesses, under the pretext that you want to integrate. No, you out of your mind. When I'm born I'm black, when I grow up I'm black, when I'm in the sun I'm black, when I'm sick I'm black, when I die I'm black, and you, when you're born you're pink, when you grow up you're white, when you're cold you're blue, when you're sick you're green, when you die you're gray, and you dare call me colored. The cornerstones of this country's operation are economic and political strength and power. The black man doesn't have the economic strength, and it will take time for him to build it. But right now the American black man has the political strength and power to change his destiny overnight. Every morning when I wake up, now, I regard it as having another borrowed day. It has always been my belief that I, too, will die by violence. I have done all that I can to be prepared. America's most dangerous and threatening black man is the one who has been kept sealed up by the northerner in the black ghettos, the northern white power structure system, to keep talking democracy while keeping the black man out of sight somewhere, around the corner. The American Negro has been entirely brainwashed from ever seeing or thinking of himself, as he should, as a part of the non-white peoples of the world. I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. The white man was created a devil, to bring chaos upon this earth. 10 guards and a warden couldn't have torn me out of those books. Months passed without even thinking about being imprisoned. I had never been so truly free in my life. Until the image of the black man in the mind of the black man has been changed, there will always be delinquency, parental and juvenile. The idea is not to change the attitude of the white man to the black man, but to change the attitude of the black man to himself. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. But they don't use law, they use law for their interests. They don't go by law, international, federal, local, nothing. They go by whatever is expedient to protect the interests that are at stake. They asked if I knew what conscientious objector meant. I told them that when the white man asked me to go off somewhere and fight and maybe die to preserve the way the white man treated the black man in America, then my conscience made me object. New York white youth were killing victims. That was a sociological problem. But when black youth killed somebody, the power structure was looking to hang somebody. If the so-called Christianity, now being practiced in America, displays the best that world Christianity has left to offer, no one in his right mind should need any much greater proof that very close at hand is the end of Christianity. My alma mater was books, a good library. When you want a nation, that's called nationalism. Black nationalism. A revolutionary is a black nationalist. He wants a nation. They attack the victim, and then the criminal who attacked the victim accuses the victim of attacking him. This is American justice. This is American democracy, and those of you who are familiar with it know that in America democracy is hypocrisy. Now, if I'm wrong, put me in jail, but if you can't prove that democracy is not hypocrisy, then don't put your hands on me. Hatred and anger are powerless when met with kindness. During the past 11 days here in the Muslim world, I have eaten from the same plate, drunk from the same glass, and slept on the same rug, while praying to the same God, with fellow Muslims, whose eyes were the bluest of blue, whose hair was the blondest of blonde, and whose skin was the whitest of white. And in the words and in the deeds of the white Muslims, I felt the same sincerity that I felt among the black African Muslims of Nigeria, Sudan, and Ghana. In my recent travels into African countries and others, I was impressed by the importance of having a working unity among all peoples, black as well as white. That is a lie. I'm not for wanton violence, I'm for justice. I've never seen a sincere white man, not when it comes to helping black people. Usually things like this are done by white people to benefit themselves. The white man's primary interest is not to elevate the thinking of black people, or to waken black people, or white people either. The white man is interested in the black man only to the extent that the black man is of use to him. The white man's interest is to make money, to exploit. My family was so poor we were close to eating the holes inside of donuts. I am not a racist in any form whatsoever. I don't believe in any form of discrimination or segregation. I had blind faith in him. My faith in Elijah Muhammad was more blind and more uncompromising than any faith that any man has ever had for another man. And so I didn't try and see him as he actually was. I think that the best thing that a person can be is sincere. When you go to a church and you see the pastor of that church with a philosophy and a program that's designed to bring black people together and elevate black people, join that church. If you see where the NAACP is preaching and practicing that which is designed to make black nationalism materialize, join the NAACP. Join any kind of organization, civic, religious, fraternal, political or otherwise, that's based on lifting the black man up and making him master of his own community. I live like a man who's dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything. The thing that you have to understand about those of us in the Black Muslim movement was that all of us believed 100% in the divinity of Elijah Muhammad. We believed in him. We actually believed that God, in Detroit by the way, that God had taught him and all of that. I always believed that he believed in himself. And I was shocked when I found out that he himself didn't believe it. I'm a field Negro. The masses are the field Negroes. When they see this man's house on fire, you don't hear these little Negroes talking about, our government is in trouble. They say, the government is in trouble. Let's cool it, brothers. Spoken to his assassins, 3 men who stabbed him 16 times. Be peaceful, be courteous, obey the. It's impossible for a white person to believe in capitalism and not believe in racism. Muhammad teaches us the knowledge of our own selves, and of our own people. He cleans us up morally, mentally and spiritually. Black nationalism is not designed to make the black man reevaluate the white man, you know him already, but to make the black man reevaluate himself. Don't change the white man's mind, you can't change his mind. And that whole thing about appealing to the moral conscience of America, America's conscience is bankrupt. Everything that came out of Europe, every blue-eyed thing, is already an American. And as long as you and I have been over here, we aren't Americans yet. We do not condemn the preachers as an individual, but we condemn what they teach. We urge that the preachers teach the truth, to teach our people the one important guiding rule of conduct, unity of purpose. I shall never rest until I have undone the harm I did to so many well-meaning, innocent Negroes who through my own evangelistic zeal now believe in him even more fanatically and more blindly than I did. If we are extremists, then we are not ashamed of it, for the conditions that our people suffer are extreme, and extreme illness cannot be cured with moderate medicine. The government has departments to deal with the special interest groups that make themselves heard and felt. A Department of Agriculture cares for the farmers' needs. There is a Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. There is a Department of the Interior, in which the Indians are included. Is the farmer, the doctor, the Indian, the greatest problem in America today? No, it is the black man. There ought to be a Pentagon-sized Washington department dealing with every segment of the black man's problems. I think teaching a man to hate himself is much more criminal than teaching a man to hate someone else. The white man is not inherently evil, but America's racist society influences him to act evilly. The society has produced and nourishes a psychology which brings out the lowest, most base part of human beings. "I'm with an old family" was the euphemism used to dignify the professions of white folks, cooks and maids who talked so affectedly among their own kind in Roxbury, Massachusetts, that you couldn't even understand them. It takes heart to be a guerrilla warrior because you're on your own. In conventional warfare you have tanks and a whole lot of other people with you to back you up, planes over your head and all that kind of stuff. But a guerrilla is on his own. All you have is a rifle, some sneakers and a bowl of rice, and that's all you need, and a lot of heart. Our success in America will involve two circles, black nationalism and Islam. It will take black nationalism, to make our people conscious of doing for self. Then Islam will provide the spiritual guidance. Black nationalism will link us to Africa and Islam will link us spiritually to Africa, Arabia, Asia. It isn't the American white man who is a racist, but it's the American political, economic and social atmosphere that automatically nourishes a racist psychology in the white man. The whites of the younger generation, in the colleges and universities, will see the handwriting on the wall and many of them will turn to the spiritual path of truth. That morning was when I first began to reappraise the white man. It was when I first began to perceive that white man, as commonly used, means complexion only secondarily. Primarily it described attitudes and actions. Racism is a human problem and a crime that is absolutely so ghastly that a person who is fighting racism is well within his rights to fight against it by any means necessary, until it is eliminated. Here was one of the white man's most characteristic behavior patterns, where black men are concerned. He loves himself so much that he is startled if he discovers that his victims don't share his vainglorious self-opinion. The collective white man had acted like a devil in virtually every contact he had with the world's collective non-white man. A segregated school system produces children who, when they graduate, they do with crippled minds. First, what is a revolution? Sometimes I'm inclined to believe that many of our people are using this word revolution loosely, without taking careful consideration of what this word actually means, and what its historic characteristics are. When you study the historic nature of revolutions, the motive of a revolution, the objective of a revolution, and the result of a revolution, and the methods used in a revolution, you may change words. You may devise another program. You may change your goal and you may change your mind. We must control the politics and the politicians of our community. They must no longer take orders from outside forces. We will organize, and sweep out of office all Negro politicians who are puppets for the outside forces. A Negro just can't be whipped by somebody white and return with his head up in the neighborhood, especially in those days, when sports and, to a lesser extent show business, were the only fields open to Negroes, and when the ring was the only place a Negro could whip a white man and not be lynched. Internal differences within the Nation of Islam forced me out of it. I did not leave of my own free will. But now that it has happened, I intend to make the most of it. Now that I have more independence of action, I intend to use a more flexible approach toward working with others to get a solution to this problem. The black man in North America was sickest of all politically. He let the white man divide him into such foolishness as considering himself a black Democrat, a black Republican, a black conservative, or a black liberal, when a 10 million black vote bloc could be the deciding balance of power in American politics, because the white man's vote is almost always evenly divided. Negroes don't even like snails. What they're doing is proving they're integrated. After 400 years of slave labor, we have some back pay coming, a bill owed to us that must be collected. We are fighting for the right to live as free humans in this society. In fact, we are actually fighting for rights that are even greater than civil rights, and that is human rights. Right now, in every big city ghetto, tens of thousands of yesterday's and today's school dropouts are keeping body and soul together by some form of hustling in the same way I did. After you get your freedom, your enemy will respect you. Since Western society is deteriorating, it has become overrun with immorality, and God is going to judge it and destroy it. And the only way the black people caught up in this society can be saved is not to integrate into this corrupt society, but to separate from it, to a land of our own, where we can reform ourselves, lift up our moral standards and try to be godly. I don't have any hate. I've got some sense. I'm not going to let anybody who hates me tell me to love him. I'm not that way out. I don't encourage any act of murder, nor do I glorify in anyone's death, but I do think that when the white public uses its press to magnify the fact that there are lives of white hostages at stake, they don't say hostages. Every paper says white hostages. They give me the impression that they attach more importance to a white hostage and a white death, than they do the death of a human being, despite the color of his skin. Revolutions are never waged singing "We shall overcome." Revolutions are based upon bloodshed. Whether we are Christians or Muslims or nationalists or agnostics or atheists, we must first learn to forget our differences. If we have differences, let us differ in the closet. When we come out in front, let us not have anything to argue about until we get finished arguing with the man. If the late President Kennedy could get together with Khrushchev and exchange some wheat, we certainly have more in common with each other than Kennedy and Khrushchev had with each other. Where the really sincere white people have got to do their proving of themselves is not among the black victims, but out on the battle lines of where America's racism really is, and that's in their own home communities. Just because a cat has kittens in the oven, that doesn't make them biscuits. When I am dead I say it that way because from the things I know, I do not expect to live long enough to read this book in its finished form. I want you to just watch and see if I'm not right in what I say, that the white man, in his press, is going to identify me with hate. He will make use of me dead, as he has made use of me alive, as a convenient symbol of hatred, and that will help him escape facing the truth that all I have been doing is holding up a mirror to reflect, to show, the history of unspeakable crimes that his race has committed against my race. We don't go for segregation. We go for separation. Separation is when you have your own. You control your own economy. You control your own politics, you control your own society, you control your own everything. You have yours and you control yours, we have ours and we control ours. When you expand the civil rights struggle to the level of human rights, you can then take the case of the black man in this country before the nations in the UN. You can take it before the General Assembly. You can take Uncle Sam before a world court. But the only level you can do it on is the level of human rights. Civil rights keeps you under his restrictions, under his jurisdiction. Civil rights keeps you in his pocket. I saw all races, all colors, blue-eyed blondes to black-skinned Africans in true brotherhood. In unity. Living as one. Worshipping as one. No segregationists, no liberals, they would not have known how to interpret the meaning of those words. I am not a Republican nor a Democrat, nor an American, and got sense enough to know it. I am one of the 22 million black victims of the Democrats, and one of the 22 million black victims of the Republicans, and one of the 22 million black victims of Americanism. You and I have never seen democracy, all we've seen is hypocrisy. If you go to jail, so what? If you are black, you were born in jail. If you are black, you were born in jail, in the North as well as the South. Stop talking about the South. As long as you are south of the Canadian border, you are South. The greatest miracle Christianity has achieved in America is that the black man in white Christian hands has not grown violent. It is a miracle that 22 million black people have not risen up against their oppressors, in which they would have been justified by all moral criteria and even by the democratic traditions. Any county's moral strength, or its moral weakness, is quickly measurable by the street attire and attitude of its women, especially its young women. Wherever spiritual values have been submerged, if not destroyed, by an emphasis upon material things, invariably the women reflect it. If Africa wasn't beautiful, the white man wouldn't want it. All of us were mischievous at some time or another, I more so than any of the rest. My brother, Filbert, and I kept a battle going. Even in our fighting, there was a feeling of brotherly union. Each of us should make the most of our lives. We should give life our best. Let us use our lives more wisely to chase our dreams, find our true purpose, and be as happy and successful as possible. We reject segregation even more militantly than you say you do. We want separation, which is not the same. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that segregation is when your life and liberty are controlled, regulated, by someone else. To segregate means to control. Segregation is that which is forced upon inferiors by superiors. But separation is that which is done voluntarily, by two equals, for the good of both. When someone sticks a knife 6 inches into your back, and then pulls it out 2 inches and claims he's doing you a favor, don't believe him. Whenever you're going after something that belongs to you, anyone who's depriving you of the right to have it is a criminal. Understand that. Whenever you are going after something that is yours, you are within your legal rights to lay claim to it. And anyone who puts forth any effort to deprive you of that which is yours, is breaking the law, is a criminal. It takes two to tango. When I go, you go. I feel like a man who has been asleep somewhat and under someone else's control. I feel that what I'm thinking and saying is now for myself. Before it was for and by the guidance of Elijah Muhammad. Now I think with my own mind, sir. Western interests, imperialism, colonialism, exploitation, racism, and other negative isms. You are either free or not free. Foreign diplomats could have modeled their conduct on the way the Negro postmen, Pullman porters, and dining car waiters of Roxbury, Massachusetts, acted, striding around as if they were wearing top hats and cutaways. If the ballot doesn't work, we'll try something else. But let us try the ballot. We're not Americans, we're Africans who happen to be in America. We were kidnapped and brought here against our will from Africa. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock, that rock landed on us. People involved in a revolution don't become part of the system, they destroy the system. The Negro Revolution is no revolution because it condemns the system and then asks the system it has condemned to accept them. A new world order is in the making, and it is up to us to prepare ourselves that we may take our rightful place in it. The black man in North America was economically sick, and that was evident in one simple fact: as a consumer, he got less than his share, and as a producer gave least. The black American today shows us the perfect parasite image, the black tick under the delusion that he is progressing because he rides on the udder of the fat, three-stomached cow that is white America. If you are in a country that is progressive, the woman is progressive. If you're in a country that reflects the consciousness toward the importance of education, it's because the woman is aware of the importance of education. But in every backward country you'll find the women are backward, and in every country where education is not stressed it's because the women don't have education. Anytime you find someone more successful than you are, especially when you're both engaged in the same business, you know they're doing something that you aren't. Once you change your philosophy, you change your thought pattern. Once you change your thought pattern, you change your attitude. Once you change your attitude, it changes your behavior pattern and then you go on into some action. As long as you got a sit-down philosophy, you'll have a sit-down thought pattern, and as long as you think that old sit-down thought, you'll be in some kind of sit-down action. I'll say nothing against him. At one time the whites in the United States called him a racialist, an extremist, and a communist. Then the black Muslims came along and the whites thanked the Lord for Martin Luther King. This was my first lesson about gambling. If you see somebody winning all the time, he isn't gambling, he's cheating. Later on in life, if I were continuously losing in any gambling situation, I would watch very closely. Not long ago, an English writer telephoned me from London, asking questions. One was, "What's your alma mater?" I told him, "Books." You will never catch me with a free 15 minutes in which I'm not studying something I feel might be able to help the black man. Look at yourselves. Some of you teenagers, students. How do you think I feel? And I belong to a generation ahead of you. How do you think I feel to have to tell you, we, my generation, sat around like a knot on a wall while the whole world was fighting for its human rights, and you've got to be born into a society where you still have that same fight. What did we do? Who preceded you? I'll tell you what we did. Nothing. And don't you make the same mistake we made. The death of over 120 white people is a very beautiful thing. We can't teach what we don't know, and we can't lead where we can't go. The only way we'll get freedom for ourselves is to identify ourselves with every oppressed people in the world. We are blood brothers to the people of Brazil, Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba, yes, Cuba too. And when I speak, I don't speak as a Democrat, or a Republican, nor an American. I speak as a victim of America's so-called democracy. You and I have never seen democracy, all we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. Of all our studies, it is history that is best qualified to reward our research. I imagine that one of the biggest troubles with colleges is there are too many distractions, too much panty raiding, fraternities, and bulla bulla and all of that. I am a Muslim, because it's a religion that teaches you an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. It teaches you to respect everybody, and treat everybody right. But it also teaches you if someone steps on your toe, chop off their foot. And I carry my religious axe with me all the time. Policies change, and programs change, according to time, but objective never changes. You might change your method of achieving the objective, but the objective never changes. Our objective is complete freedom, complete justice, complete equality, by any means necessary. It'll be the ballot or it'll be the bullet. It'll be liberty or it'll be death. And if you're not ready to pay that price, don't use the word freedom in your vocabulary. I am and always will be a Muslim. My religion is Islam. They don't stand for anything different in South Africa than America stands for. The only difference is over there they preach as well as practice apartheid. America preaches freedom and practices slavery. 22 million African Americans, that's what we are, Africans who are in America. One of the things that made the Black Muslim movement grow was its emphasis upon things African. This was the secret to the growth of the Black Muslim movement. African blood, African origin, African culture, African ties. And you'd be surprised, we discovered that deep within the subconscious of the black man in this country, he is still more African than he is American. When we send our children to school, they learn nothing about us other than we used to be cotton pickers. Why, your grandfather was Nat Turner, your grandfather was Toussaint Louverture, your grandfather was Hannibal. It was your grandfather's hands who forged civilization, and it was your grandmother's hands who rocked the cradle of civilization. But the textbooks tell our children nothing. The common goal of 22 million Afro-Americans is respect as human beings, the God-given right to be a human being. Our common goal is to obtain the human rights America has been denying us. We can never get civil rights in America until our human rights are first restored. We will never be recognized as citizens there until we are first recognized as humans. It is incorrect to classify the revolt of the Negro as simply a radical conflict of black against white or as a purely American problem. Rather, we are today seeing a global rebellion of the oppressed against the oppressor, the exploited against the exploiter. I don't feel that I am a visitor in Ghana or in any part of Africa. I feel that I am at home. Here I am, back in Mecca. I am still traveling, trying to broaden my mind, for I've seen too much of the damage narrow-mindedness can make of things, and when I return home to America, I will devote what energies I have to repairing the damage. So early in my life, I had learned that if you want something, you had better make some noise. There were tens of thousands of pilgrims, from all over the world. They were of all colors, from blue-eyed blondes to black-skinned Africans. But we were all participating in the same ritual, displaying a spirit of unity and brotherhood that my experiences in America had led me to believe never could exist between the white and non-white. I could see from this, that perhaps if white Americans could accept the oneness of God, then perhaps, too, they could accept in reality the oneness of man, and cease to measure, and hinder, and harm others in terms of their differences in color. You can't hate the roots of the tree without ending up hating the tree. You can't hate your origin without ending up hating yourself. You can't hate the land, your motherland, the place that you come from, and we can't hate Africa without ending up hating ourselves. The black man in the Western Hemisphere, North America, Central America, South America, and in the Caribbean, is the best example of how one can be made, skillfully, to hate himself that you can find anywhere on this earth. It is only after slavery and prison that the sweetest appreciation of freedom can come. We were truly all the same, brothers, because their belief in one God had removed the white from their minds, the white from their behavior, and the white from their attitude. My half-sister, Ella, and I always were much closer as basic types, we're dominant people, and, my other half-sister, Mary, has always been mild and quiet, almost shy. Since I learned the truth in Mecca, my dearest friends have come to include all kinds, some Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, agnostics, and even atheists. I have friends who are called capitalists, socialists, and communists. Some of my friends are moderates, conservatives, extremists, some are even Uncle Toms. My friends today are black, brown, red, yellow, and white. His master's pain was his pain, and it hurt him more for his master to be sick than for him to be sick himself. When the house started burning down, that type of Negro would fight harder to put the master's house out than the master himself would. But then you had another Negro out in the field. The house Negro was in the minority. The masses, the field Negroes, were the masses. They were in the majority. When the master got sick, they prayed that he'd die. If his house caught on fire, they'd pray for a wind to come along and fan the breeze. I do not pretend to be a divine man, but I do believe in divine guidance, divine power, and in the fulfillment of divine prophecy. I am not educated, nor am I an expert in any particular field, but I am sincere, and my sincerity is my credentials. The real names of our people were destroyed during slavery. The last name of my forefathers was taken from them when they were brought to America and made slaves, and then the name of the slave master was given, which we refuse. We reject that name today and refuse it. I never acknowledge it whatsoever. Everybody shall be accepted no matter what they stand for. You are not always going to agree on their faith. It'll be the ballot or the bullet. It'll be liberty or it'll be death. The common enemy is the white man. I must say this concerning the great controversy over rifles and shotguns. The only thing I've ever said is that in areas where the government has proven itself either unwilling or unable to defend the lives and the property of Negroes, it's time for Negroes to defend themselves. Article number 2 of the constitutional amendments provides you and me the right to own a rifle or a shotgun. It is constitutionally legal to own a shotgun or a rifle. Hence I have no mercy or compassion in me for a society that will crush people, and then penalize them for not being able to stand up under the weight. The same rebellion, the same impatience, the same anger that exists in the hearts of the dark people in Africa and Asia is existing in the hearts and minds of 20 million black people in this country who have been just as thoroughly colonized as the people in Africa and Asia. I myself would go for nonviolence if it was consistent, if everybody was going to be nonviolent all the time. I'd say, okay, let's get with it, we'll all be nonviolent. But I don't go along with any kind of nonviolence unless everybody's going to be nonviolent. If they make the Ku Klux Klan nonviolent, I'll be nonviolent. If they make the White Citizens Council nonviolent, I'll be nonviolent. But as long as you've got somebody else not being nonviolent, I don't want anybody coming to me talking any nonviolent talk. The white man knows what a revolution is. He knows that the Black Revolution is worldwide in scope and in nature. The Black Revolution is sweeping Asia, is sweeping Africa, is rearing its head in Latin America. The Cuban Revolution, that's a revolution. They overturned the system. Revolution is in Asia, revolution is in Africa, and the white man is screaming because he sees revolution in Latin America. How do you think he'll react to you when you learn what a real revolution is? An integrated cup of coffee isn't sufficient pay for 400 years of slave labor. A race of people is like an individual man, until it uses its own talent, takes pride in its own history, expresses its own culture, affirms its own selfhood. It can never fulfill itself. Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Mankind's history has proved from one era to another that the true criterion of leadership is spiritual. Men are attracted by spirit. By power, men are forced. Love is engendered by spirit. By power, anxieties are created. Anytime you have to rely upon your enemy for a job, you're in bad shape. Never have I witnessed such sincere hospitality and the overwhelming spirit of true brotherhood as is practiced by people of all colors and races here in this ancient holy land, the home of Abraham, Muhammad, and all the other prophets of the Holy Scriptures. For the past week, I have been utterly speechless and spellbound by the graciousness I see displayed all around me by people of all colors. I don't mean go out and get violent, but at the same time you should never be nonviolent unless you run into some nonviolence. I'm nonviolent with those who are nonviolent with me, but when you drop that violence on me, then you've made me go insane, and I'm not responsible for what I do. It's the hinge that squeaks that gets the grease. If Martin Luther King, Roy Wilkins, or any of these compromising Negroes who say exactly what the white man wants to hear is interviewed anywhere in the country, you don't get anybody to offset what they say. But whenever a black man stands up and says something that white people don't like, then the first thing that man does is run around to try and find somebody to say something to offset what has just been said. This is natural, but it is done. If you're born in America with a black skin, you're born in prison. And the masses of black people in America today are beginning to regard our plight or predicament in this society as one of a prison inmate. We have a common enemy. We have this in common: we have a common oppressor, a common exploiter, and a common discriminator. But once we all realize that we have this common enemy, then we unite on the basis of what we have in common. And what we have foremost in common is that enemy, the white man. He's an enemy to all of us. I know some of you all think that some of them aren't enemies. Time will tell. I believe in human rights for everyone, and none of us is qualified to judge each other, and that none of us should therefore have that authority. America is such a paradoxical society, hypocritically paradoxical, that if you don't have some humor, you'll crack up. It is a time for martyrs now, and if I am to be one, it will be for the cause of brotherhood. That's the only thing that can save this country. Revolutions are never peaceful. Ignorance of each other is what has made unity impossible in the past. Therefore we need enlightenment. We need more light about each other. Light creates understanding, understanding creates love, love creates patience, and patience creates unity. Once we have more knowledge, light, about each other, we will stop condemning each other and a united front will be brought about. Yes, I'm an extremist. The black race here in North America is in extremely bad condition. You show me a black man who isn't an extremist and I'll show you one who needs psychiatric attention. Human rights are something you were born with. Human rights are your God-given rights. Human rights are the rights that are recognized by all nations of this earth. The black masses want not to be shrunk from as though they are plague-ridden. They want not to be walled up in slums, in the ghettos, like animals. They want to live in an open, free society where they can walk with their heads up, like men and women. Few white people realize that many black people today dislike and avoid spending more time than they must about white people. This integration image, as it is popularly interpreted, has millions of vain, self-exalted white people convinced that black people want to sleep in bed with them, and that's a lie. Any number of my former brothers felt they would make heroes of themselves in the Nation of Islam if they killed me. I knew that no one would kill you quicker than Muslim if he felt that's what Allah wanted him to do. I know that societies often have killed people who have helped to change those societies. And if I can die having brought any light, having exposed any meaningful truth that will help destroy the racist cancer that is malignant in the body of America, then all credit is due to Allah. Only the mistakes have been mine. Who taught you to hate yourself? And in the racial climate of this country today, it is anybody's guess which of the extremes in approach to the black man's problems might personally meet a fatal catastrophe first. Non-violent Dr. King, or so-called violent me. In my 39 years on this earth, the holy city of Mecca had been the first time I had ever stood before the Creator of all and felt like a complete human being. If violence is wrong in America, violence is wrong abroad. If it is wrong to be violent defending black women and black children and black babies and black men, then it is wrong for America to draft us and make us violent abroad in defense of her. And if it is right for America to draft us and teach us how to be violent in defense of her, then it is right for you and me to do whatever is necessary to defend our own people right here in this country. X is not my real name, but if you study history you'll find why no black man in the Western Hemisphere knows his real name. Some of his ancestors kidnapped our ancestors from Africa, and took us into the Western Hemisphere and sold us there. And our names were stripped from us, and so today we don't know who we really are. I am one of those who admit it, and so I just put X up there to keep from wearing his name. It is not a case of our people wanting either separation or integration. The use of these words actually clouds the real picture. The 22 million Afro-Americans don't seek either separation or integration. They seek recognition and respect as human beings. When I was in prison, I read an article. Don't be shocked when I say I was in prison. You're still in prison. That's what America means, prison. True Islam taught me that it takes all of the religious, political, economic, psychological, and racial ingredients or characteristics to make the human family and the human society complete. Allah always gives you signs, when you are with Him, that He is with you. Thoughtful white people know they are inferior to black people. A revolution is bloody. Revolution is hostile. Revolution knows no compromise. Revolution overturns and destroys everything that gets in its way. And you, sitting around here like a knot on the wall, saying, I'm going to love these folks no matter how much they hate me. No, you need a revolution. Whoever heard of a revolution where they lock arms, as Reverend Cleage was pointing out beautifully, singing We Shall Overcome? Just tell me. You don't do that in a revolution. You don't do any singing, you're too busy swinging. Wrong is wrong, no matter who does it or who says it. I don't advocate violence, but if a man steps on my toes, I'll step on his. Time is on the side of the oppressed today, it's against the oppressor. Truth is on the side of the oppressed today, it's against the oppressor. You don't need anything else. It's liberty or death. It's freedom for everybody or freedom for nobody. Whenever any black man in America shows signs of an uncompromising attitude against the injustices that he experiences daily, and shows no tendency whatsoever to compromise with it, then the American press characterizes him as a radical, as an extremist, someone who's irresponsible, or as a rabble-rouser or someone who doesn't rationalize in dealing with the problem. Brothers and sisters, friends and enemies, I just can't believe that everyone in here is a friend and I don't want to leave anybody out. Much of what I say might sound bitter, but it's the truth. Much of what I say might sound like it's stirring up trouble, but it's the truth. Much of what I say might sound like it's hate, but it's the truth. I find it difficult to believe that Christians accuse black Muslims of teaching racial supremacy or hatred because their own history and teachings are filled with it. It is only after the deepest darkness that the greatest light can come, it is only after extreme grief that the greatest joy can come. For 12 long years I lived within the narrow-minded confines of the straitjacket world, created by my strong belief that Elijah Muhammad was a messenger direct from God Himself, and my faith in what I now see to be a pseudo-religious philosophy that he preaches. I shall never rest until I have undone the harm I did to so many well-meaning, innocent Negroes who through my own evangelistic zeal now believe in him even more fanatically and more blindly than I did. Those who would hunt a man need to remember that a jungle also contains those who hunt the hunters. Sometimes you have to pick the gun up to put the gun down. Be nonviolent only with those who are nonviolent to you. And when you can bring me a nonviolent racist, bring me a nonviolent segregationist, then I'll get nonviolent. But don't teach me to be nonviolent until you teach some of those crackers to be nonviolent. I don't believe in any form of unjustified extremism. But when a man is exercising extremism, a human being is exercising extremism, in defense of liberty for human beings it's no vice. And when one is moderate in the pursuit of justice for human beings I say he is a sinner. No, I'm not an American. I'm one of 22 million black people who are the victims of Americanism. One of the victims of democracy, nothing but disguised hypocrisy. So I'm not standing here speaking to you as an American, or a patriot, or a flag saluter, or a flag waver. No, not I. I'm speaking as a victim of this American system. I don't see any American dream, I see an American nightmare. Anytime you live in a society supposedly based upon law and it doesn't enforce its own laws because the color of a man's skin happens to be wrong, then I say those people are justified to resort to any means necessary to bring about justice when the government can't give them justice. Anytime you know you're within the law, within your legal rights, within your moral rights, in accord with justice, then die for what you believe in. But don't die alone. Let your dying be reciprocal. This is what is meant by equality. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. What you and I need to do is learn to forget our differences. When we come together, we don't come together as Baptists or Methodists. You don't catch hell 'cause you're a Baptist, and you don't catch hell 'cause you're a Methodist. You don't catch hell because you're a Democrat or a Republican. You don't catch hell because you're a Mason or an Elk. And you sure don't catch hell 'cause you're an American, 'cause if you was an American, you wouldn't catch no hell. You catch hell 'cause you're a black man. You catch hell, all of us catch hell, for the same reason. The greatest weapon the colonial powers have used in the past against our people has always been his ability to divide and conquer. If I take my hand and slap you, it might sting you because these digits are separated. But all I have to do to put you back in your place is bring those digits together. You spend so much time barking up the civil rights tree, you don't even know there's a human rights tree on the same floor. And just because you have colleges and universities doesn't mean you have education. I'm sorry to say that the subject I most disliked was mathematics. I have thought about it. I think the reason was that mathematics leaves no room for argument. If you made a mistake, that was all there was to it. The War of Armageddon has already started. God is using his many weapons. He is sending hurricanes so fast that, the blue-eyed devils, can't name them. He is drowning them in floods and causing their cars to crash, and their airplanes cannot stay up in the sky. Their boats are sinking because Allah controls all things, and he is using all methods to begin to wipe the devils off the planet. And, the enemy is dying of diseases that have never been so deadly. I believe it's a crime for anyone who is being brutalized to continue to accept that brutality without doing something to defend himself. The only difference between America and South Africa preaches separation and practices separation, America preaches integration and practices segregation. This is the only difference. They don't practice what they preach, whereas South Africa practices and preaches the same thing. The Constitution of the United States of America clearly affirms the right of every American citizen to bear arms. And as Americans, we will not give up a single right guaranteed under the Constitution. If someone puts their hands on you, make sure they never put their hands on anybody else again. Culture is an indispensable weapon in the freedom struggle. If you stick a knife 9 inches into my back and pull it out 3 inches, that is not progress. Even if you pull it all the way out, that is not progress. Progress is healing the wound, and America hasn't even begun to pull out the knife. Respect me, or put me to death. Never allow your enemies to educate your children. The day that the black man takes an uncompromising step and realizes that he's within his rights, when his own freedom is being jeopardized, to use any means necessary to bring about his freedom or put a halt to that injustice, I don't think he'll be by himself. The black nation of Egypt is the only country that has a science named after its culture, Egyptology. A ballot is like a bullet. You don't throw your ballots until you see a target, and if that target is not in reach, keep your ballot in your pocket. The only persons who really changed history are those who changed men's thinking about themselves. We, the black masses, don't want these leaders who seek our support coming to us representing a certain political party. They must come to us today as black leaders representing the welfare of black people. We won't follow any leader today who comes on the basis of political party. Both parties, Democrat and Republican, are controlled by the same people who have abused our rights, and who have deceived us with false promises every time an election rolls around. Today's Uncle Tom doesn't wear a handkerchief on his head. This modern, 20th century Uncle Thomas now often wears a top hat. He's usually well-dressed and well-educated. He's often the personification of culture and refinement. The 20th century Uncle Thomas sometimes speaks with a Yale or Harvard accent. Sometimes he is known as Professor, Doctor, Judge, and Reverend, even Right Reverend Doctor. This 20th century Uncle Thomas is a professional Negro. By that I mean his profession is being a Negro for the white man. You can't hate your origin and not end up hating yourself. You can't hate Africa and not hate yourself. To the same degree that your understanding of and attitude towards Africa becomes more positive, your understanding of and attitude towards yourself will also become more positive. A man who believes in freedom will do anything under the sun to acquire, or preserve his freedom. For tomorrow belongs to those that prepare for it today. Daring to reach, to climb, to crawl, to scratch, to get back up when you've been knocked down, to push forward, ever forward, to forgive. It means sacrificing everything if necessary, to carve out a place for your own existence. It means living. I believe in recognizing every human being as a human being, neither white, black, brown, or red. And when you are dealing with humanity as a family, there's no question of integration or intermarriage. It's just one human being marrying another human being, or one human being living around and with another human being. How can anyone be against love? Of all our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. And when you see that you've got problems, all you have to do is examine the historic method used all over the world by others who have problems similar to yours. And once you see how they got theirs straight, then you know how you can get yours straight. We're all in the same boat, and we all are going to catch the same hell from the same man. I believe that it would be almost impossible to find anywhere in America a black man who has lived further down in the mud of human society than I have, or a black man who has been any more ignorant than I have, or a black man who has suffered more anguish during his life than I have. But it is only after the deepest darkness that the greatest joy can come. It is only after slavery and prison that the sweetest appreciation of freedom can come. I for one believe that if you give people a thorough understanding of what confronts them and the basic causes that produce it, they'll create their own program. And when the people create a program, you get action. Either you are a citizen or you are not a citizen at all. If you are a citizen, you are free. If you're not a citizen, you are a slave. This religion, Islam, recognizes all men as brothers. It accepts all human beings as equals before God, and as equal members in the human family of mankind. To me, the thing that is worse than death is betrayal. You see, I could conceive death, but I could not conceive betrayal. I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, no matter who it is for or against. I'm a human being, first and foremost, and as such I'm for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole. I don't care how nice one is to you, The thing you must always remember is that almost never does he really see you as he sees himself, as he sees his own kind. You don't have a revolution in which you love your enemy, and you don't have a revolution in which you are begging the system of exploitation to integrate you into it. Revolutions overturn systems. Revolutions destroy systems. Why am I as I am? To understand that of any person, his whole life, from birth must be reviewed. All of our experiences fuse into our personality. Everything that ever happened to us is an ingredient. Our objective is complete freedom, justice, and equality by any means necessary. You can always chase a dream, but it will not count if you never catch it. In fact, once he is motivated, no one can change more completely than the man who has been at the bottom. I call myself the best example of that. We are non-violent with people who are non-violent with us. The junkie can never start to cure himself until he recognizes his true condition. You can't hate the roots of a tree and not hate the tree. I can't turn around without hearing about some civil rights advance. White people seem to think the black ought to be shouting, "Hallelujah." For 100 years the white man has had his foot-long knife in the black man's back, and now the white man starts to wiggle the knife out, maybe 6 inches. The black man's supposed to be grateful. Why, if the white man jerked the knife out, it's still going to leave a scar. You don't stick a knife in a man's back 9 inches and then pull it out 6 inches and say you're making progress. Stumbling is not falling. Any time you find the government involved in a conspiracy to violate the citizenship or the civil rights of a people, then you are wasting your time going to that government expecting redress. Instead, you have to take that government to the World Court and accuse it of genocide and all of the other crimes that it is guilty of today. People don't realize how a man's whole life can be changed by one book. Children have a lesson adults should learn, to not be ashamed of failing, but to get up and try again. Most of us adults are so afraid, so cautious, so safe, and therefore so shrinking and rigid and afraid that it is why so many humans fail. Most middle-aged adults have resigned themselves to failure. I have often reflected upon the new vistas that reading has opened to me. I knew right there in prison that reading had changed forever the course of my life. As I see it today, the ability to read awoke inside me some long dormant craving to be mentally alive. Learn the language that they understand, and when they come upon our doorstep to talk we can talk, and they will get the point. There will be a dialogue, there will be some communication, and I am quite certain that then there will be some understanding. How can you thank a man for giving you what's already yours? How then can you thank him for giving you only part of what is yours? Reform is for people who have government connections, revolution is for the people. I see America through the eyes of the victim. I don't see any American dream, I see an American nightmare. So over you is the greatest enemy a man can have, and that is fear. I know some of you are afraid to listen to the truth, you have been raised on fear and lies. But I am going to preach to you the truth until you are free of that fear. Stumbling isn't falling. I don't favor violence. If we could bring about recognition and respect of our people by peaceful means, well and good. Everybody would like to reach his objectives peacefully. But I'm also a realist. The only people in this country who are asked to be non-violent are black people. When a person places the proper value on freedom, there is nothing under the sun that he will not do to acquire that freedom. Whenever you hear a man saying he wants freedom, but in the next breath he is going to tell you what he won't do to get it, or what he doesn't believe in doing in order to get it, he doesn't believe in freedom. A man who believes in freedom will do anything under the sun to acquire, or preserve his freedom. I believe in Islam. I am a Muslim, and there is nothing wrong with being a Muslim, nothing wrong with the religion of Islam. It just teaches us to believe in Allah as the God. Those of you who are Christian probably believe in the same God, because I think you believe in the God who created the universe. That's the one we believe in, the one who created universe, the only difference being you call him God and we call him Allah. The Jews call him Jehovah. If you could understand Hebrew, you would probably call him Jehovah too. If you could understand Arabic, you would probably call him Allah. To me, the thing that is worse than death is betrayal. I learned early that crying out in protest could accomplish things. My older brothers and sister had started to school when, sometimes, they would come in and ask for a buttered biscuit or something, and my mother, impatiently, would tell them no. But I would cry out and make a fuss until I got what I wanted. I remember well how my mother asked me why I couldn't be a nice boy like Wilfred, but I would think to myself that Wilfred, for being so nice and quiet, often stayed hungry. So early in life, I had learned that if you want something, you had better make some noise. I, for one, will join in with anyone, I don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth. America preaches integration and practices segregation. When you hear me say by any means necessary, I mean exactly that. I believe in anything that is necessary to correct unjust conditions, political, economic, social, physical, anything that is necessary. You and I have never seen democracy, all we've seen is hypocrisy. You're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time where there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way is going to be built is with extreme methods, and I for one will join with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want change this miserable condition that exists on this earth. You catch any white man off guard in here right now, You catch him off guard and ask him what he is. He doesn't say he's an American. He either tells you he's Irish, or he's Italian, or he's German, if you catch him off guard and he doesn't know what you're up to. And even though he was born here, he'll tell you he's Italian. Well, if he's Italian, you and I are African even though we were born here. Revolution is based on land. Land is the basis of all independence. Land is the basis of freedom, justice, and equality. Our people have made the mistake of confusing the methods with the objectives. As long as we agree on objectives, we should never fall out with each other just because we believe in different methods, or tactics, or strategy. We have to keep in mind at all times that we are not fighting for separation. We are fighting for recognition as free humans in this society. The price of freedom is death. Just as a tree without roots is dead, a people without history or cultural roots also becomes a dead people. We cannot think of being acceptable to others until we have first proven acceptable to ourselves. It's just like when you've got some coffee that's too black, which means it's too strong. What do? You integrate it with cream, you make it weak. But if you pour too much cream in it, you won't even know you ever had coffee. It used to be hot, it becomes cool. It used to be strong, it becomes weak. It used to wake you up, now it puts you to sleep. Don't be in a hurry to condemn because he doesn't do what you do or think as you think or as fast. There was a time when you didn't know what you know today. I am a Muslim and my religion makes me be against all forms of racism. It keeps me from judging any man by the color of his skin. It teaches me to judge him by his deeds. The Zionist argument to justify Israel's present occupation of Arab Palestine has no intelligent or legal basis in history. Armed with the knowledge of our past, we can with confidence charter a course for our future. Culture is an indispensable weapon in the freedom struggle. We must take hold of it and forge the future with the past. Concerning nonviolence, it is criminal to teach a man not to defend himself when he is the constant victim of brutal attacks. We black men have a hard enough time in our own struggle for justice, and already have enough enemies as it is, to make the drastic mistake of attacking each other and adding more weight to an already unbearable load. One thing that the white man can never give the black man is self-respect. The black man in the ghettos have to start self-correcting his own material moral and spiritual defects and evil. The black man need to start his own program to get rid of drunkenness, drug addiction and prostitution. The black man in America has to lift up his own sense of values. You get your freedom by letting your enemy know that you'll do anything to get it. Then you'll get it. It's the only way you'll get it. That's not a chip on my shoulder, that's your foot on my neck. No religion will ever make me forget the condition of our people in this country, no God, no religion, no nothing will make me forget it until it stops, until it's eliminated. I want to make that point clear. The only thing power respects is power. The greatest mistake of the movement has been trying to organize a sleeping people around specific goals. You have to wake the people up first, then you'll get action. I want to be remembered as someone who was sincere. Even if I made mistakes, they were made in sincerity. If I was wrong in sincerity. One of the tricks of the West is to use or create images. They create images of a person who doesn't go along with their views, and then they make certain that this image is distasteful, and then anything that that person has to say from there on in, is rejected. An English writer telephoned me from London, asking questions. One was, "What's your alma mater?" I told him, "Books." If not now then when, if not me then who? Times change so quickly that if you and I don't keep up with the times, we'll find ourselves with an umbrella in our hand, over our head, when the sun is out. Or we'll find ourselves standing in the rain, with the umbrella inside the door. It's good to keep wide open ears and listen to what everybody else has to say, but when you come to make a decision, you have to weigh all of what you've heard on its own, and place it where it belongs, and come to a decision for yourself. You'll never regret it. But if you form the habit of taking what someone else says about a thing without checking it out for yourself, you'll find that other people will have you hating your friends and loving your enemies. If a dog is biting a black man, the black man should kill the dog, whether the dog is a police dog or a hound dog or any kind of dog. If a dog is fixed on a black man when that black man is doing nothing but trying to take advantage of what the government says is supposed to be his, then that black man should kill that dog or any two-legged dog who sets the dog on him. I believe that there will ultimately be a clash between the oppressed and those who do the oppressing. I believe that there will be a clash between those who want freedom, justice, and equality for everyone and those who want to continue the system of exploitation. I believe that there will be that kind of clash, but I don't think it will be based on the color of the skin. Anytime anyone is enslaved, or in any way deprived of his liberty, if that person is a human being, as far as I am concerned, he is justified to resort to whatever methods necessary to bring about his liberty again. One day, may we all meet together in the light of understanding. Only those who have already experienced a revolution within themselves can reach out effectively to help others. We need more light about each other. Light creates understanding, understanding creates love, love creates patience, and patience creates unity. You can't have capitalism without racism. I'm not going to sit at your table and watch you eat, with nothing on my plate, and call myself a diner. Sitting at the table doesn't make you a diner. How can you thank a man for giving you what's yours? In the past, yes, I have made sweeping indictments of all white people. I never will be guilty of that again, as I know now that some white people are truly sincere, that some truly are capable of being brotherly toward a black man. The true Islam has shown me that a blanket indictment of all white people is as wrong as when whites made blanket indictments against blacks. I remember one night at Muzdalifah with nothing but the sky overhead. I lay awake amid sleeping Muslim brothers, and I learned that pilgrims from every land, every color, and class, and rank, high officials and the beggar alike all snored in the same language. As long as you are convinced you have never done anything, you can never do anything. If all the white people who claim they don't hate us would ever get together and do something to the whites who claim they hate us, we'd see some action. Talk is cheap. If white people didn't want to have a South African situation, there'd be none. If white people in America didn't want segregation, there'd be none. It is the man who allows him to lynch who is never seen. They cripple the bird's wing, and then condemn it for not flying as fast as they. You can cuss out colonialism, imperialism, and all other kinds of ism, but it's hard for you to cuss that dollarism. When they drop those dollars on you, your soul goes. Only a fool would let his enemy teach his children. When you live in a poor neighborhood, you are living in an area where you have poor schools. When you have poor schools, you have poor teachers. When you have poor teachers, you get a poor education. When you get a poor education, you can only work in a poor-paying job. And that poor-paying job enables you to live again in a poor neighborhood. So, it's a very vicious cycle. As long as a white man does it, it's all right. A black man is supposed to have no feelings. But when a black man strikes back, he's an extremist. He's supposed to sit passively and have no feelings, be nonviolent, and love his enemy no matter what kind of attack, verbal or otherwise, he's supposed to take it. But if he stands up in any way and tries to defend himself, then he's an extremist. The mental flexibility of the wise man permits him to keep an open mind and enables him to readjust himself whenever it becomes necessary for a change. America's greatest crime against the black man was not slavery or lynching, but that he was taught to wear a mask of self-hate and self-doubt. The mother is the first teacher of the child. The message she gives that child gives to the world. A man without any history is like a tree without roots. Read absolutely everything you get your hands on because you'll never know where you'll get an idea from. You have to be very careful introducing the truth to the black man, who has never previously heard the truth about himself. The black brother is so brainwashed that he may reject the truth when he first hears it. You have to drop a little bit on him at a time, and wait a while to let that sink in before advancing to the next step. The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. There can be no black-white unity until there is first some black unity. We cannot think of uniting with others, until after we have first united among ourselves. We cannot think of being acceptable to others until we have first proven acceptable to ourselves. I think the black man in America wants to be recognized as a human being. And it's almost impossible for one who has enslaved another to bring himself to accept the person who used to pull his plow, who used to be an animal, subhuman, who used to be considered as such by him. It's almost impossible for that person in his right mind to accept that person as his equal. For the white man to ask the black man if he hates him is just like the rapist asking the raped, or the wolf asking the sheep, "Do you hate me?" The white man is in no moral position to accuse anyone else of hate. Why, when all of my ancestors are snake-bitten, and I'm snake-bitten, and I warn my children to avoid snakes, what does that snake sound like accusing me of hate teaching? We declare our right on this earth, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary. American civil rights leader, where do we go from here, chaos or community? Lynching is a murder. For the past 400 years our people have been lynched physically, but now it's done politically. We're lynched politically, we're lynched economically, we're lynched socially, we're lynched in every way that you can imagine. The press is so powerful in its image-making role, it can make a criminal look like he's the victim and make the victim look like he's the criminal. This is the press, an irresponsible press. If you aren't careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. When the people who are in power want to create an image to justify something that's bad, they use the press. And they'll use the press to create a humanitarian image for a devil, or a devil image for a humanitarian. They'll take a person who's a victim of the crime, and make it appear he's the criminal, and they'll take the criminal and make it appear that he's the victim of the crime. Learn to see, listen, and think for yourself. A wise man can play the part of a clown, but a clown can't play the part of a wise man. When I is replaced with we, even illness becomes wellness. One of the first things I think young people, especially nowadays, should learn is how to see for yourself and listen for yourself and think for yourself. Then you can come to an intelligent decision for yourself. If you form the habit of going by what you hear others say about someone, or going by what others think about someone, instead of searching that thing out for yourself and seeing for yourself, you will be walking west when you think you're going east. And you will be walking east when you think you're going west. If you form the habit of taking what someone else says about a thing without checking it out for yourself, you'll find that other people will have you hating your friends and loving your enemies.